Hello and welcome to my channel. Today I want to talk about asexuality as someone who identifies as asexual. So I feel like a lot of people don't get what it is, and I've definitely experienced that in my life. When I've told people that I'm asexual, they never understand it. And if you're listening to this, unless you're also asexual, I don't think you're going to understand it either. But I want to just talk about it. And from what I've heard, it seems like everyone's experience with it is different. But I want to start off by talking about how I came to terms with the fact when I started classifying myself as asexual. So I started when I was pretty much like in middle school and high school. So, what I noticed was that I seemed to have a very different perspective on like different people, like romantically, than other people did. So, like other people were being interested in like I would see girls getting crushes on guys and guys getting crushes on girls and wanting to do stuff with them, but I found that that wasn't really the case for me and it felt really weird. So I feel like generally speaking, most people the default is that you're straight, right? So for me, that was my default. I figured, okay, well, I'm straight. But what I would notice is like even though um maybe I would well no, actually I didn't even really think about dating guys, but I guess I didn't really find anyone in my school attractive. There wasn't anyone that I wanted to date, but like still the thought of doing anything more than like holding hands with a guy just I didn't like it. So like if the thought of kissing a guy, I was like, ugh, no. I just wasn't interested. If it wasn't something like holding hands or maybe hugging or something like that, I wasn't interested. And when it came to girls, I also didn't feel any desire to do anything with them. Now, I didn't even necessarily want to hold their hands or anything, but I just, I didn't really feel anything in particular when it came to either one of them. And right now, I'm mostly talking about middle school, but it kind of continued on in high school too. But basically, it was just like I I thought I was straight, but I really wasn't. Honestly, I was looking more at girls. So I thought, okay, well, if I'm looking more at girls, and on average, I think more girls are attractive, maybe I'm a lesbian because I'm not feeling this great pull to guys, and I'm looking more at girls. So maybe I'm a lesbian. But then it was like, but I don't want to do anything with girls. So I feel like I'm about the same with guys and girls. So maybe I'm bi. So then I started thinking I was bi, but then I was like, no, actually, no, 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 no. I really don't see me with girls. I think I'm straight. And you see the pattern, right? I went from like straight to lesbian to bi, and I kept switching between the three. Those were the only three that I knew at the time, but none of them felt right, honestly. Like, it felt like no matter which one I picked, none of them felt right because I wasn't really connecting with them. It still felt like no matter which one I picked, something was off. And like, especially when I got to high school, it was like, so for the sake of trying to keep this more on the PG side, I I knew I wasn't a fan of female genitalia. I really really did not like the thought of it. Um no. With male genitalia, it wasn't that I didn't like it like with women where I was just like ill, but I didn't particularly like it either. It was more of just like a curiosity thing. Like, I was very curious about it, but I didn't have any like desire for it. I didn't like think it looked great. I didn't want to really do anything with it. And e- even if you want to say that I did want to do something with it, it was out of curiosity. It wasn't out of desire. Like, I had no desire to do anything with anyone. And, it was very odd. I think my friends at the time thought that because I was so against female genitalia, I think they thought I was like a closeted lesbian or something, which, I mean, I didn't feel like was true, but it was one of the labels I was going through, so but I mean, for me, when it came to romance, it really was just, it wasn't a thing of wanting to do anything with anyone. If anything, it was just, I just wanted to be desired. I was just curious, like, oh, what would it be like to do this? But it was curiosity. It wasn't desire. But still, it felt odd because I never had this same desire that other people seemed to have. And you know, as I started to get, older and everything, especially considering certain things that I went through with my friends, I started to really have a negative opinion of romantic relationships because of the emphasis, the very heavy emphasis that gets put on sex in relationships. People call it a duty, people call sex a need, and I just really, it turned me off from even wanting to be in a relationship because to me, I felt like, I don't know, it felt like it wasn't pure. It felt like people didn't, if you weren't having sex, then people didn't even love you anymore. Like, it was all a relationship, a romance, love was all contingent on whether or not you were having sex. And this duty of it, this obligation of it, just felt so consequential, conditional. It left a really bitter taste in my mouth. I did not like it. And so it made me very adverse to relationships in general, to be honest. Like, to the point where I started also thinking that I was aromantic because, the thing is, not only was I not sexually attracted to anyone, but I really didn't have a lot of crushes either. Now, I did have um a few, and I must say there was one in particular that I, gosh, I didn't even find him attractive. And I didn't even like the fact that I liked him either. But after I started liking him, I just liked liking someone. And that's what, made me like him. But honestly, at a certain point, based on the way he was just treating me, not that we were friends or anything, we were acquaintances at best. We had a decent amount of classes together. But at one point, even though I liked liking someone, I was like, you know what? I can't like him anymore. Like, this is ridiculous. So I actually just stopped myself from liking him, which probably sounds strange to people. But, I really, like I said, I didn't have a lot of crushes at all. And I say this just like in general, like, um, probably in my whole life, you know what, I'm not even gonna go into that, but let's just say I have not had a lot of crushes. And but I will say that every time I had one, and I won't even necessarily say they were all crushes. It was, sometimes it was just, I was just interested. I wouldn't even say it went as far as a crush, which this all, you know, further made me think maybe I was a romantic. But you know, This was all on guys though, which is why even though I do consider myself to be asexual, I do feel like I'm straight leaning because I still don't like female genitalia. Although I will say this is what I think this is interesting. So I do think I probably could have a relationship with a girl, but it's not something that I would likely take seriously just because I don't want to deal with society and the stigma of being, in like a homosexual relationship. It's just harder. And since I do like men, I just would prefer to do that. But I mean, who knows where life is going to lead me, right? But and honestly, I really sometimes, like, I call them girl crushes, but there have been some girls who I have seen and I have like freaked out. Like, I'm like, "Oh my gosh, like they are so beautiful or so gorgeous, whatever. I'm so into them." Ugh, goodness gracious. Uh I remember there was there was one time I was using a dating app and I was looking for guys, and he had this picture, or actually he had a few pictures, and there was a girl in it too. And honestly, I wish I could have swiped on her instead. I didn't even care about that guy. Oh man. But anyway, my point though is that I even to this day, I still am just not really, I find asexuality to actually be a gift, because personally, I don't. So here's the thing, right? If I were to explain asexuality, I would say that it's a lack of sexual attraction to, well, like, anyone. Like, I'm not sexually attracted to people. Now, I very much am aesthetically attracted to people, and maybe that's the artist in me. I just love aesthetically pleasing things, like, a lot. Um so, and like, if a person is attractive to me, I really gravitate towards that. I mean, I think most people do though, right? Um but there isn't, you know, any sort of like sexual interest there. There just isn't. And but you know, so with that being said, I don't understand people having sexual attraction. I don't know what that's like. I don't know what that is. And I know that probably sounds weird to anyone who's listening to this if you don't also identify as asexual. But the way I like to explain it is whatever you're attracted to, right? Whatever gets you going. Now imagine whatever gender, sex, whatever word you want to use, that you're not attracted to. You know how you feel about them? You know how you can like recognize that someone's attractive but you don't want to like do anything with them? Well, it's like that, but for everyone. Now, even when I say that, most people still don't get it because just the concept of not being sexually attracted to like anyone is seems to be very crazy to people, which is which is why it's so like weird for me, because I can't imagine being sexually attracted to someone. It's a very odd feeling. And I really feel like though one of the biggest issues is lust. I think that it really has very negative effects on society, and it really breaks up a lot of uh beautiful relationships, as far as like cheating and everything. And you know, it it's one of the reasons why, again, I was so against romantic relationships for so long, because I would look at the effects that lust had on them, both in the relationship and outside, in the sense of, when people go outside of it to cheat. And I just never liked that aspect. And so I always figured, if sex was something that I was going to be obligated to have, if it was going to be an expectation of me, then maybe relationships just weren't for me. That's how I felt for a really long time. So it wasn't something that I pursued. I still was open to it though, because again, I did want to feel desired. I still had a curiosity, but it wasn't something that I necessarily desired for those reasons. Also, for a very good portion of my life, I was specifically a sex repulsed asexual, in the sense that, okay, so it wasn't that. So obviously, a lot of, like, other people, they have sex, they've always had sex, and I was aware of this, and it didn't bother me that other people were doing it, but the thought of me engaging in it grossed me out so much. Like, I could not stand even the thought of me doing it, of me engaging in it. I I could not. I really couldn't. Like, it grossed me out so much. So, um yeah, I didn't want to do it. So I was like, there's no need for me to be in a relationship. There's no need for me to seek one out. So I never sought one out. um, but nowadays, I'm not sex repulsed anymore. And, I'm still not sexually attracted to anyone. Although, one thing that I think is interesting is, I feel like there was one time where I may have experienced sexual attraction. I think. Uh, I mean, again, I don't know, because it's not something that I, am used to. But the one occasion that I think I did, it was very interesting. I'll say that. It was very exciting. I'll say that as well. Um, but yeah, overall, it's not something that I can identify with. It's definitely something that most people don't seem to understand. A lot of people think that we don't even exist. We get, um, yeah, we get told we don't exist. We get made fun of. We get told that, we uh don't really, and I guess in a way I agree that we don't really get, like, I mean, so I was gonna say that we don't really get, like, discriminated against, but we do. It's just, it's different, you know because instead of the thing of, like, being shamed, like, for, like, like, if you're homosexual, how there's a certain amount of shame there. With asexuality, it's different in the sense that a lot of times it's not something that people are going to know unless you tell them. Although I think most people assume that, because, like, if you're not engaging with people, they're going to assume it's because you're homosexual, ironically enough. But, it's a different type of discrimination. I definitely don't think it's as bad as, for, like, if you're being discriminated against for being homosexual, but there is some level of it, just mostly in the sense of being invalidated, in the sense of people feel like you don't exist, and it's very othering, because people don't think that it's possible, and people really can't understand it, and they can't relate and can't imagine it, which I still think is strange because I feel like, you know, unless you're like bisexual or something, there are a group of people that you're not attracted to. But I'm sure you can still pick out people being attractive, but you don't want to do anything with them. So I don't like, at least you can identify with that. I don't I mean, I guess you just can't identify with feeling that way towards everyone, but I can't identify with sexual attraction at all. Like at all. So, like, really to any capacity. So, I feel very disadvantaged in that sense, like that I can't relate in that way to most of the population. But, like I said, I do actually think it's an advantage because it's not something that consumes me. Like, I've seen it consume so many people and like ruin people's lives. I actually think it's a great problem to not have, even though people feel like, you know, we're like, or I'll say me, because honestly, from what I hear from other asexuals, it seems like maybe we all have different experiences, which makes it more confusing and weird because it's like, how are we all having such different experiences, but we all consider ourselves like ace? It just kind of seems like most people who are in the same group, they generally have like at least generally the same experiences. Ace seems all over the place from what I've seen, so it's kind of weird. Um and if you believe in like umbrella terms, there's like other stuff like, you know, demisexual, autocorosexual, I think that's what it's called. Gray. There's a whole bunch. I have my feelings about all of that, but you know, the point is, and it's ironic too because I used to consider myself demisexual, but you know, I at this point I prefer to just use the overall term of just saying I'm attractive or I'm asexual. Where I fall under that is wherever I fall. I don't feel the need to get any more detailed than that. But yeah. So, I mean, I just wanted to talk about it and explain it. And are we the A in the LGBTQIA plus whatever thing? I don't know anymore. At one point I think it was what it stood for, and now it's ally or something. I don't know. Do we even belong with that community, considering um we're literally a lack of attraction? I don't know. It almost seems like technically we shouldn't be there. I don't know, whatever. But either way, I just wanted to talk about it and add to the conversation because I feel like there's not a lot of talk about it, but I wanted to give my perspective and give my 2 cents so that there'd be a little bit more out there in case anyone wanted to know. Interestingly enough, if you've heard of Dr. K, I think he's great. He actually did a video on asexuality recently, and I watched it. I thought it was really interesting and informative, and I did identify with a decent amount of stuff that he brought up. So, if you're curious about it, I would give that a watch. But anyway, like I said, just wanted to talk about it, shed some more light on it. So if you have any questions or just want to share your experience or whatever else, feel free. If you have questions for me, though, as far as my personal life, we'll see if I answer it. Because maybe I want to share things, maybe I don't, but you know, I do like questions, so you know, we can see how it goes. In any case, I hope that this video was helpful in some sort of way. If you want to add more to the conversation, like I said, feel free. I just ask that you be respectful. Hope you got something out of this, and I hope to catch you in the next one. Bye.